So I want to sort of think about that, to just conclude by thinking about 5 possible futures. And I think that this, people can say, well, okay, very interesting, all this stuff, speculation, but why does it matter? And I think it does matter, because it's only by really studying these things scientifically that we can begin to get a picture of, what are the likely futures. And these are very important questions for the world as a whole, because they influence all sorts of questions on our possibility for continued progress, world peace, and so on. So I want to think about, I'm going to just briefly describe 5 possible futures. Now, these are not exhaustive. This list is not exhaustive. There are other possibilities, and I'll leave it up to your imagination to think of more. But each of these 5 hypotheses that I'm going to present has the merit of at least highlighting some extremes that are taken seriously by some people. And what's remarkable, I think, about this set is that just about anybody would find at least one of them preposterous, or troubling, or even deeply offensive. But every one of them is not just anticipated, but actually yearned for by some people in the world. And people act on what they yearn for. Now, at the very least, I think we could all agree that people in the world today are at cross purposes about religion. So if we can anticipate some of the possible problems and some of the possible futures, we might save ourselves from wasted effort and counterproductive campaigns, if we're lucky, and all-out war and genocidal catastrophe if we're not. So here are these 5 hypotheses. Here's one possible future. The Enlightenment is long gone. The creeping secularization of modern societies that has been anticipated for 2 centuries is evaporating before our eyes. The tide is turning, and religion is becoming more important than ever. In this scenario, religion soon resumes something like the dominant social and moral role it had before the rise of modern science in the 17th century. As people recover from their infatuation with technology and material comforts, spiritual identity becomes a person's most valued attribute, and populations come to be ever more sharply divided among Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, and a few other major multinational religious organizations. Eventually, it might take another millennium, or it might be hastened by catastrophe, one major fate sweeps the planet. Okay, scenario number 2. Religion is in its death throes. Today's outbursts of fervour and fanaticism are but a brief and awkward transition to a truly modern society in which religion plays at most a ceremonial role. In this scenario, although there may be some local and temporary revivals and even some violent catastrophes, the major religions of the world soon go just as extinct as the hundreds of minor religions that are vanishing faster than anthropologists can record them. Within the lifetimes of our grandchildren, Vatican City becomes the European Museum of Roman Catholicism, and Mecca is turned into Disney's Magic Kingdom of Allah. Scenario number 3. Religions transform themselves into institutions unlike anything before seen on the planet. Basically, creedless associations selling self-help and enabling moral teamwork, using ceremony and tradition to cement relationships and build long-term fan loyalty. So in this scenario, being a member of a religion becomes more and more like being a Cork football fan or a Dallas Cowboys fan. Different colours, different songs and cheers, different symbols, vigorous competition. Would you want your daughter to marry a Yankees fan? But aside from a rabid few, everybody appreciates the importance of peaceful coexistence in a global league of religions. Religious art and music flourish, and friendly rivalry leads to a degree of specialization, with one religion priding itself on its environmental stewardship, providing clean water for the world's billions, while another becomes duly famous for its concerted defense of social justice and economic equality. The point is, we don't know unless we study the cognitive forces that determine religious belief, which one of these is more likely than another? Here's another one. Religion diminishes in prestige and visibility, rather like smoking. It is tolerated, since there are those who say they can't live without it. But it is discouraged. And teaching religion to impressionable young children is frowned upon in most societies and actually outlawed in others. In this scenario, politicians who still practice religion can be elected if they prove themselves worthy in other regards. But few would advertise their religious affiliation, or affliction, as the politically incorrect insist on calling it. It is considered as rude to draw attention to the religion of somebody as it is to comment in public about his sexuality or whether she has been divorced. And finally, Judgment Day arrives. The blessed ascend into heaven and the rest are left behind to suffer the agonies of the damned as the Antichrist is vanquished. As the Bible prophecies foretold, after all, the rebirth of the nation of Israel in 1948 and the ongoing conflict over Palestine are clear signs of the end times, when the second coming of Christ sweeps all the other hypotheses into oblivion. Finally, I'd just like to leave you with a theological afterthought. Just think about this. What kind of God would endow his creatures with a strong, innate tendency to believe in him? I submit that it would not be a Christian God. Whatever other kind of God it would be, a God who endowed his creatures with a strong, innate tendency to believe in him would not be a Christian God. Because the fundamental principle of Christian theology is that God leaves his free human creatures free, perfectly free, to believe in him or to reject belief in him. That is completely incompatible with a God who endows his creatures with such a strong tendency to believe in him that they must use all the resources of their rational thought and skepticism to overcome those ancient superstitions. Thank you.